Yeah, I think just same as it was last night, that these lads have been outstanding for a number of years, and the way in which Gareth moulded them into a team in the last few tournaments has been exceptional. And just for the first time, I think, for a few tournaments, there is an embarrassment of riches in talent, but that has created an imbalance, along with obviously a couple of injuries in key positions. I think not having a left back, as well as Kieran Trippier, is sort of getting on with doing his job there and doing it quite well. Not having a balance at left back. I don't think we've got a balance in midfield, and we haven't got the right balance up front yet in respect of what's happening there, whether it be the right player to play alongside Phil Foden, the right players to run past Harry Kane. And I think Gareth Southgate, as much as he would have liked to have tried to be stable and continuous in his selection through this group to not create what would be a sense of panic, I think he is going to have to interfere with the team selection and potential system as well, because I think we've seen now that in the first game, that would definitely can be put down to first game of any tournament is tough. Getting over the line is really important, but I think the idea that then it becomes a pattern in the second game means that you do have to act, because I don't think it will end well if we continue to play as we are with the same team. It's a bit of a concern that the performance levels and the standards that they've set themselves over the last few years are obviously becoming something that we're using against them now, because it's unusual to see them as such a what would be, I don't know how you describe the performance. It was lacking in balance. It was lacking in energy. And the big thing is obviously the control of the game. And that's been a challenge for England teams over 20, 30 years that I've been part of. But actually this team, I think, have taken control of games and look positive. They don't look that way in this tournament up to now, and that's going to need to be dealt with.
The trend so far that we've seen from England, Gary, is that they score a goal, they go ahead, and then they drop off. There was a graphic shown on the TV last night that before the goal and after the goal, they were about 10 yards deeper. Why is that happening?
I wish I had the answer to that, because that happened to me and teams that I was part of, or was part of the coaching team in for 8 tournaments, where we found ourselves going back into what's now described as a low block, basically sitting at the edge of your box, parking the bus, thinking that we would get through games and that we could keep a clean sheet, relying upon a counter-attack and moments to be able to go and move forward. I genuinely believe over these last 3 tournaments that this team and this manager that we've got, Gareth Southgate, have broken that mould, and that they've been positive and that they've dominated games at times, accepting that they've been driven back. Obviously against Italy in the final, they scored a goal and then were driven back. But that can happen sometimes in matches, but it wouldn't normally happen in the games that we've seen, the opponents that we've seen in the first 2 games. So I would ordinarily say with England teams, it's mentality, because that's what I think we've experienced over a number of years. 1 second, I've got a fire engine or something outside. I would ordinarily say it's mentality, lack of ability with coaching, lack of technical ability with players to be able to get on the half turn and sort of get combinations built up through the back, and bravery. But with this team, they have proven that they can do those things. So I'm not quite sure why we've regressed. And that's why I think Gareth is going to have to interfere with it and do something quite stark than what he's done from what he would ordinarily want to do, having obviously played 2 matches in the tournament.
I want to pick up on a couple of things that Southgate said last night. He described the Trent Alexander-Arnold situation playing in midfield as an experiment. How do you assess the way that experiment has gone?
I was surprised that he used the word experiment. I was also surprised he referred to Calvin Phillips. I mean, we've referred to him in the last couple of weeks, but talking about a player that's not played for a couple of years hardly, that's not been in the best of form, and also the talent of the players that are currently there, I don't think will particularly go down well with the other players in the group. And, you've got Kobbie Mainoo there, you've got Wharton, Trent Alexander-Arnold. I'm torn in some ways, because I do believe we've got a generational talent. We've got a world-class player, and that England should be finding a way to make it work for him. I do believe the reason that Trent Alexander-Arnold is not a midfield player for his club, and that hasn't been a midfield player for England for the last 5 years, is because he hasn't got the talent to play in midfield. That's the reason we're called fullbacks. If you're a fullback, it's because you've ordinarily been moved back from being a winger or a midfield player, and you've not been good enough to receive the ball on the half turn and have the subtlety in your game and the ability and awareness to look over your shoulder and know where you are. It's a very difficult position to play. It's different than fullback. And what Trent does for Liverpool, where he comes in from midfield and comes onto the game, and he's facing the game, is perfect. But actually, in international football, which is more difficult to play, I think, than club football, because of the familiarity or lack of familiarity we have with the players. You don't play as often with them. I think it's doubly difficult. I think that 2 games in now, I just saw Trent's face when he was walking off last night. There was a sort of a resigned look on his face and a feeling of real disappointment. And I think probably that will be the last we see of it. I actually don't think it's just down to him, though. I think the balance of the whole team in terms of how we play isn't right. And it wouldn't be fair just to say that the Trent Alexander-Arnold experiment, as Gareth called it, is the reason for how we played in the last 2 games.